In this video, we pick up right where we left off. We've got the engine block, trans, and T-case fitted together, and we're gonna try and test fit some things. There are so many unknowns for this car, so we had to start putting stuff in to see what fits and what doesn't. For mock-up, we have this Evo 2 trans that we had laying around. A big challenge for this build is going to be the drivetrain. Our goal is to use a W5M33 from a first-gen DSM, which is much larger than the Vista transmission because it houses the center diff. The Vista transmission does not have a center diff. Instead, it uses a viscous coupling in the drive shaft to transfer the torque. We will address that at some point, but for now, we're just focusing on the transmission. We were a bit too ambitious, so the T-case needs to come off and we need to trim the rear roll stop mount to clear the intermediate shaft. Yeah, let's see if she fits. We got the corner notched out. Now we're gonna...
I got this dangle grinder.
The dangle grinder. A little more?
No, that's
it?
That's lined up. We'll do some...
Oh, no, that's good. Yeah.
Yeah, we'll do some dressing. And I'm gonna have to clean that.
Yeah.
And that up.
Hey, that's pretty nice, though. Good job.
Yeah.
Good cuts. So now, we are gonna see if we can get some stuff to fit in the Vista. We've got the new radiator, the front mount. This is the 6-bolt turbo, well, non-turbo, dual overhead cam DSM mount. And we're gonna see how everything fits. We're gonna pop the head on, we're gonna mock up the turbo. We've got the exhaust manifold to put on, and we're gonna see how it all goes. Alex is starting a fire. All right, so this is where we're at with mocking stuff in. We've got the front mount kind of right there, radiator kind of right there. Got the turbo on, the head actually fits. We had to do some interesting stuff with this engine mount. So this is the Vista mount, and it's bolted to a DSM mount. So we still have to finalize this, but we'll show you that when it's all done. But it looks like everything's gonna work. All right, so now we're just gonna get more of the random crap out of the engine bay. Stuff that we're not gonna use or stuff that's in the way of cleaning. Yep.
Like that.
Yep, like that. There are a lot of things we'll be deleting from this car, so a lot of this stuff we're taking out won't be going back in. We'll also be repurposing most of the wiring too, but we'll get to that in a later video. Now that we have more room, we can move on to some more test fitting. Okay, so we got ourselves a little 1G transmission over here, and we are gonna see if it fits better than the old Evo 2 transmission. And if it does, or if it doesn't, we're gonna use that anyway. But then we can finish up the engine mount for the transmission side. But we've got plenty of video of us pulling and putting in engines and transits in this car, so we're not gonna show that. We're just gonna show you when it's done and see how it looks. Let's get to work. Okay, so we've got the 1G trans in, and the mount fits it. We didn't have the right length bolt, so we made it the right length. The problem is we are hitting this radius arm. So the front suspension on this thing's interesting, and it has a radius arm. The DSM trans is a little too tall, so it's hitting the radius arm and not letting us get this to where it needs to be. So what we're gonna do is modify the radius arm. We're gonna get this mounted, take the radius arm off, modify it, use it as a template to make a strong one that fits all this. Then the engine will be where it needs to be, and we'll have mounts figured out for the 1G transmission. We learned a lot from all the test fitting, so that gives us plenty to discuss, research, and plan. In the meantime, we're going to work on refreshing the engine, starting with the head. We're going to start by removing some of the old gasket material, then disassemble the valves and get down to the bare head. The old valve stem seals were putting up a fight, but we eventually got them out.
You see, even in your apologies, you have to insult me. Want to rehearse for the show?
Woo! Got it.
Or maybe
Did you get it?
Yeah.
Both?
it's not
Yep.
gonna make me feel
Nice.
Now, I only
Now we need
make
to,
fun of people
now we need to blow the hell out of it. That's all it takes, huh? So one of my coworkers said he had a dream last night that he met a group of guys at an airsoft field by Pierre's. He's never played airsoft. And the group of guys were all my friends, and they all let him borrow their gear because he didn't have anything. But they were all made up people, because it wasn't you or Cooper or anyone else of my friends that he knows. But they were my friends, according to his dream. Looks good to me.
First thing we need is put the HLA back on.
Oh, yeah, we
Spread
got-
that out a little bit. Or we don't know where it's at. They can get one of them fancy Kigley units, you know. Don't need it.
We don't need it. No, we're putting a 13T on this thing.
No, I splurged on the fancy snap-offs ratchet to put it together instead of parts for the car.
Oh, every time.
Click.
Now that we have the head cleaned out, we can move on to reassembly, starting with a good valve lap. There are a few different techniques to lapping valves, and this way has worked for us well in the past. All right, well, we got all the valves lapped. They're looking pretty good. And now we're going to install them, starting with
Let's go where brown is exhaust, right?
Brown's intake.
Oh.
They're labeled I and E on the.
Oh, look at that!
Isn't that nice?
Wow.
So yeah, we're gonna install the
Protect.
valve stem seals, and then we got some Evo 8 beehives to put in, which are much lighter than the factory ones for all the revs.
Wow! Alright, I'm on the exhaust. That's the exhaust.
That's it. It's beautiful. These are gonna seal so good, you're not gonna have the DSM blue smoke plague.
This video is brought to you by DSM Blue Smoke Plug.
These engines are notorious for having bad valve stem seals and burning the oil that slips through them into the combustion chambers. New seals made from better materials will stop this car from having that problem.
A little bit different. Yeah, let me.
That's the closest I got to it.
Gonna make a song on it.
What? Stop! No! Stop!
Bach.
All right, that looks nice. All right, let's put the valves on.
Get to work.
Let's get the valves and the springs and the seats and all the parts on the valve parts. We put a little oil on the valves to slide them through the guides and new seals. Then assemble the spring seat, springs, retainers. Then we compress the spring and place the keepers around the top of the valve to hold it all together. Once we actually get all the keepers in, we wrap it up to keep it clean until we're ready to put it on the block. Now it's sealed for reals. Good job. Thanks for watching. In the next episode, we'll give the same treatment to the block and get it assembled. So make sure you're subscribed so you don't miss it.
This time on This Old House.